Okay, everyone. I'm Christin. I am a early childhood librarian at the Southern Pines Public Library, and I actually have just read The Thursday Murder Club and the follow-up to it, The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman, and they were wonderful. I love cozy murder mysteries. I can't handle all of the gore and the suspense and all of the things, so it was wonderful. If you enjoyed Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, you will love these books. So enough about that. Let me, oh, here we go. We just went through all of this and now now it won't, there we go, expand. Okay, so I am going to start my little presentation. All right. Okie dokie. So why you guys are all here. This is our literacy kits, creating self-led foundational literacy kits for child care centers. I am Christin, as I just said, and I've been working in public libraries since 2008. And I'm very fortunate that I have actually been working mostly with the birth to 5 age range and their caregivers. So I was really fascinated in grad school about baby brain development and how everything worked inside those little brains, and what little things we could do with those tiny humans could really set up a foundation for them for the rest of their lives. There have been so many wonderful studies that have followed babies. I think in the 80s is some of the earliest studies that we've seen go through adulthood, and the difference that just little things can make in those first couple of years. So I have also shared pictures of my 2 cats that are locked in my bedroom. So if you hear meowing, I've tried very hard. They're watching Great British Baking Show and have wet food. So I'm hoping they'll behave for the next hour, but we'll see because they're cats. So we will just hop right in. And we are going to start with a mentee poll. If you have used Mentee before, you can just open up your camera app on your phone and use that QR code, or you can go to mentee.com and you can just type in the code 5823, and you can answer this question of what you think of when you hear outreach. I'll leave that up for just a second, and then I'll bump over to the mentee screen.
No, we can't actually. So up front. Yep.
All right, let me bump over. Why does this?
If you click escape, I think you should be able.
It's thinking about it. Let me see, will this, okay, thank you. Okay, so our literacy kits, there we go, look at those wonderful answers.
Oh, I switched, wrong code. It's 5283. This is me not typing the right thing in the chat right now.
It makes me feel better. I didn't realize how many pop-ups come when you're sharing through Zoom. So I am now navigating navigating those. Okay, so I see going outside of the library, community engagement, bookmobile, literacy, fun, daycares, children, inclusive, publicizing, that's a great one. Advertising, let's see, oh yeah, homeschool, connecting with homeschool communities is so rewarding. And so I know we're focused on the early literacy and that foundation, we're focused on that age group, but there's so much that can stem from this webinar. So, you might get an idea of homeschooling and thinking, I've never thought to do outreach for a homeschool community. So, keep your mind open that there might be some things that you just haven't even thought of, because before coming into this position, I had never thought to go to daycare centers. So there's some great ones. Community learning, oh, the good resources. Yeah. And I would love to know, it looks like from the chat that a lot of y'all are in libraries. Is that the majority of those attending today? So I'm turning my head. I feel like a cat. I'm looking, some of these words go sideways. Active participation. Check the chat. Okay. All right. I'm going to pop back over. Yeah, preschool, people, space for community. Yeah, reaching new families. That's something that my library is always focusing on, is trying to get new families in our community to know about the library and to use the library. So that's a really important one. I wish we had a bookmobile. Okay, let's see. Is it this simple? Just to pop back and forth. All right, so we're back to that mentee. Okay, wonderful. All right, here we go. Okie dokie. So this is our outline. For our, oh, did it work? Oh. Okay, perfect. This is our outline for today's webinar. Just kind of give you guys an idea of what we're going to be going over. So why create the literacy kits, finding service population. We're going to dig into what is inside a kit, how to create the content, coming up with the themes and some optional adaptations to work for your organization. And then getting the kits out in the world, and then connecting with some questions and some thoughts. So beep, bop, boop. Why create the literacy kits? So I want to start off by saying that I will probably interchangeably use daycare, preschool, childcare center. I lump all of those words together. I know there are differences depending on your community. So I'm just tend to use some of them interchangeably. And similarly, as a librarian, I created this for my library. But if you are working in a school or just maybe a nonprofit organization and you're interested, I'm not trying to pigeonhole just the library community. So just a couple of things that I'll say, but it definitely can be inclusive for whomever wants to take this and run. So outreach is very important. And I love the community aspect that I saw on that mentee poll, finding and serving populations that maybe are underserved or economically disadvantaged. It's a great way to use the resources that we have, especially if you do have any of those underserved or economically disadvantaged populations that are in your community. So libraries and service organizations, they really do focus on trying to get more education and more awareness out into their community. And so this could be something that can tweak, be a little tweak of what you're already doing, or maybe you're wanting to build something from the ground up. And I think it's important to really think about the population that you want to serve. For my library, I work at a public library and it's municipal. We don't have a lot of those in North Carolina, but we serve just our town. It's about 15,000 people. And so we've chosen to focus on the Department of Health and Human Services website. They have a list of daycare centers that are 3-star and below. Traditionally, they're full day centers. And that is the population that we have really chosen to serve with this project. So you can pick whomever, but it was something that we had to narrow it down. We have a lot of childcare centers here. So we wanted to narrow it down to make it a little bit more manageable. And there are about 16 centers, and pre-pandemic, we were visiting all of those, and now it's definitely it's dwindled a good bit, but we are still hopeful, as I'm sure we all are. So let's move on. So I toyed with the idea of going through the resources, finding them and the nuts and bolts of the program before showing you the box. But I polled some of my coworkers, and they thought it would be important to kind of give you a visual idea of what I was talking about before providing all of the information. So I am going to show you one of our boxes that, or one of our literacy kits. I'll also use that interchangeably, so I don't want to confuse you. So I brought home one of our boxes. So I'm going to turn off the presentation and I'm going to just stop share. Yes, okay, good. I was explaining to Devin that this is my first live Zoom presentation. I've done with NCLA, I did a recorded one, but this is definitely new for me. So I appreciate any patience that you might have, because this is all a little bit new. I've made it through the pandemic without having to Zoom too much. Okay, so this is our literacy kit, and it is a giant box, and it is called, the name of the box, I'm not kidding, is the Really Useful Box. That is the actual name, and it's number 17. I don't know who marketed this. It leaves a lot to be desired, but it does explain it is a really useful box, number 17. We have just a little envelope or a little page protector with the sticker of what the box is. That theme was imagination. There are about 25 different themes that I've created using just very simple concepts like colors and numbers and animals and things like that. So the book list, I try to have about 15 books, 10 being just traditional picture books, 5 being board books. I've separated that out. And then I've also listed that there is a flannel board in there and that there is a DVD in there. And I'll go into that a little bit more when I get there. So we have a little folder, very simple pocket folder inside the box. And just kind of the basic nuts and bolts of creating a box, of the raw materials that I use. Obviously, the Really Useful Box, number 17, a pocket folder, labels that you can put on the box, the folder, any of the envelopes inside. The manila envelopes are what I use to hold activities, just the little simple clasp ones. A laminator is really great. I feel like most libraries have a laminator that they can use. And if you don't have manila envelopes, you can use little plastic baggies. That works as well. And if you choose to do a flannel board, I have actually made these. This is an 8x10 canvas that I got in bulk from probably Michael's, and some flannel, also by the yard. Maybe Michael's, maybe Hobby Lobby or Joann's. I can't remember. It was during the pandemic and I don't know if I blocked it all out, but just a hot glue gun and a canvas and some flannel board. And you can make very inexpensive flannel boards. I don't ever like to assume that my centers have many resources. And so if I am including any sort of flannel activity, then I'm going to make sure that they have a board, because I couldn't imagine the frustration of opening it up and having some cute resources and being like, well, I'm just gonna hold them in the air. So this is a really easy fix for that. Okie dokie. So now diving into the folder a little bit more, I have the same list we have our barcode numbers. All of the books are cataloged. They have their own holdings code, so they can't get put on hold by a patron. We barcode and RFID them just mostly for ease of check-in and check-out. And like I said, we do that for all of the materials that are inside of the box in terms of books. We don't do it for the activities. The DVD that we include, it's hard not to laugh remembering all of these. We have these Weston Woods DVDs, and I'm not sure if any libraries are familiar with Weston Woods. They were very popular. I feel like the 2000 teen time, and they're lovely. They never circulated at my library, and they are basically just stories. And so I do notice a lot of the centers have a TV DVD player. They're surprisingly a pretty reasonable addition for a lot of these centers. So I include the DVD just in case they do have it, because we were getting rid of them in our collection and it would just hurt my heart to try to throw away a $50 DVD. So it does have it does have stories like Danny and the Dinosaur, T is for Terrible, and Dinosaur Bones. So it is literacy. It is sharing stories instead of, I've seen a lot of centers just put on YouTube and the kids watch YouTube videos. So this is a little bit better. We also have, let me get back. I'll have you all know I'm balancing this on a cat tower right now. So I'm utilizing the bucket and all of the things. So it's a pretty funny, pretty funny setup. I also have a literacy tip that I put in every folder. I think I made 6 or 7 of them, and it's in the Google Drive folder that Devin will send. But they're just really simple little tips that these providers can, it's more for them, honestly. They're not going to read these to the kids. This one is, just because books have words doesn't mean you have to read them. During story time, encourage children to share what they see in photos and guess what's coming next. If they're too young for the activity, ask them open-ended questions such as, what color is the dog? Remember to wait 5 to 10 seconds before helping them with a response so they're able to process the question. So it's nothing, high intellect. It's just ask a question and see what happens. But I keep these laminated in kind of a bright color so that they see them, and hopefully something that they'll carry with them while they have the box. And remember to share those tips with the other providers. Okie dokie. Also included is just kind of an explanation of everything that's in the box. The flannel board, the activities that go with the board. This has 2 flannel activities. It's a Tooth Fairy flannel and a Humpty Dumpty flannel. And the additional activities are a tongue twister activity and a hidden treasure search, which I will show. I repeat the literacy tip just in case this blue card goes missing between centers and I don't catch it. And then I also like to break up the books into the appropriate age to share those books with, if that makes sense. So I have birth to 24 months, 2 to 3 years, and 3 to 5 years. And so the 15 books, I kind of parse them out just to give the provider an idea of, oh, this book is more appropriate for a 4 or 5-year-old than this book. And not that, a 3 or 5-year-old wouldn't love to go through a board book, but just to kind of help them understand that not all books are great for all audiences. It takes some of the guessing out of it. I also include literacy activities. So with each age group, I'll just pick a book and kind of give them an idea of like a question to ask. Like for the baby books, while reading, talk about the objects, colors, and shapes that you might see in the illustrations. If there are animals, make sounds, ask the children to make the sounds. And then specifically with, now if I was smart, I would have had this book on the top, but in this imagination box is Tap the Magic Tree. And so I shared, while reading Tap the Magic Tree, act out what the book says. The children will engage with the story, ask them open-ended questions, such as what happens during the spring season? Is it hot or is it cold outside? And just kind of giving them examples instead of saying ask open-ended questions, because while I know exactly what that means, this is, kind of my whole career is understanding these concepts, and not everyone is just going to be like, oh, I know a perfect example of an open-ended question. So I try to make it really simple, because they have a hard enough job, balancing 10 to 15 screaming toddlers and trying to go through all of this. So I like to use really easy instructions. Okie dokie. And then I'll add a couple of songs. I have 2. I'm a Little Airplane, which I put to the tune of I'm a Little Teapot. And then a movement called Can You Move Like Me? And one of the things that I like to stress when I'm talking about these literacy boxes is that we usually as professionals, we know all of the tunes to the songs, but my Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, having something set to the tune of that and having, a 20-something-year-old provider, I honestly probably couldn't even think of it unless I had the words in front of me. So trying to reimagine some of the songs that we maybe learned in library school or even knew as kids, and thinking of ways that we can set them to better tunes that are maybe a little more universal instead of, the depressing "My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean." So that's something that I like to include because it can be a little confusing for those providers. Okie dokie. Now we have our the activities. Two of the activities. I have the third one. Here we go. So like I said, if I have the flannel board activities, I'll include a flannel board with the box. And this is Humpty Dumpty. And I always include the rhyme, just, it's on a laminated card, just so in case they don't know Humpty Dumpty, they'll have the rhyme. And then it's just, I found these little flannel board pieces in my office that have been around for a while, and I laminated them and have the Velcro on the back. And I included instructions on, encouraging the children to come up and take turns pulling Humpty off the wall, or talking about, which Humpty, how does that Humpty look like he's feeling? And so there are some instructions to kind of drag out, it's probably the wrong word, but to lengthen some of these activities and kind of reimagine. And again, I like to do that, not just to tell them how to use it, but to show them that you can reimagine any activity, any rhyme, any song, change any of the words out. The next one is our Tooth Fairy flannel. And this was another one I actually found in my office, and it is just a bunch of pillows cut out of flannel, and there is a little tooth, and you just hide it behind one of the pillows, and the rhyme is children, look and see, can you find the tooth for me? So going over colors and counting and giving them, ideas on how to use things differently. And then lastly, with the activity, tongue twisters. So these really don't fall under imagination unless you consider silliness imaginative, which I would consider everything imagination, but I've listed, or I've made, 6 or so just common tongue twisters. And I also included why I have tongue twisters in here. And so it says tongue twisters have many benefits for young children, especially when it comes to speech and language. Doing tongue twisters can help exercise their muscles that help lead to clearer pronunciation. And helps children recognize words that are difficult for them. So just constantly reminding that there is a reason, and there is literacy and activities that we do with little ones that may seem so simple, but really, like, there is a purpose, whether it's singing the songs or doing fun tongue twisters. My last example of an activity in this box is the product of a craft closet clean out. That's like a tongue twister, isn't it? I found this, I guess we had a sand art program, I don't know how many years ago, whenever sand art was cool. And I found a bunch of these sand art jars with, and then a bunch of just random beads. And so I just chose a bunch of different beads. There, there's letters, there's a green flip-flop and a red key and a blue star. And I put them inside this little jar. It's hot glued closed, so that's important. And this is something that is a great quiet time activity that the caregiver and the daycare provider can give to an older child. So, a 2-year-old is probably just going to shake it, which is fun too. But, something they're going through and calling out what they see, looking for letter recognition, and just little simple things that they can use in addition to books. It is important to, one, to hot glue. I know I said that, but also when you're if you choose to create something like this, when you're putting it together, write down what you're making. I learned that 2 jars in. I just started throwing things in there, and I was like, how am I supposed to know what to tell these children to look for? So don't be like me and actually write everything down. And it's numbered. So this is number 3, and I used a label maker, number 3. So I have about 8 of these that go into some of the kits. Okay. Now for some of the books. Move that out of the way. So I mentioned I do about 10-ish books. I try to do about 2/3 of regular picture books, and then 5 or a third, I guess, if you like math, board books, since daycare centers really do provide, services to little ones that aren't quite competent with their page handling skills. So some of our books are books that we have weeded from our collection, not board books, because when they need to go, they need to go. But some books just don't circulate all that well, so we will weed them out. Some of them are from a Smart Start initiative that we used, I think, early 2000s. I'm not kidding, probably 20 years ago, and we still have some of these books. This program, this initiative has been redesigned and reimagined so many times, which I think is so cool because it just kind of keeps being more relevant and more current with what we learn about, foundational literacy and how we can best serve our community that also serves children. I also purchased some new books, both board books and picture books. It was really important to me. These kits initially were only weeded books. And
I could teach the database in the library stuff and how to
Sorry, who was that? I can't see. Can you say that again? No? Maybe someone accidentally unmuted themselves.
I think they were accidentally unmuted.
Okay, no worries. So a lot of the books, like I said, were weeded and they were well loved. If we're a public library, if we're getting rid of a book, there's a reason. It's not just like, oh, I don't like this color anymore. It has seen things. And so to put all of those books in a box and deliver them to these centers that really are underserved, and sometimes they, I feel like it just sent a message that like, here's our leftovers, best of luck. So it was really important to me to refresh them, to get new books, to get new materials. And even though these aren't expensive materials, this canvas that I covered with flannel, there aren't any stains on it. Like some of them were a little sad when I dove into this program. So I like to say that as well, because I think it's important to give nice, new, shiny things to these centers, because I don't think a lot of the time they get the best of the best. So it feels like it's a wonderful message to say, like, this is brand new and we want you to have this and use this because it's important. So like I said, we do have some books that, we've had. Here's a good example, our unicorn book. This is circulated. We actually took the Mylar off of it. This is from 1998, but it's still in good shape. It doesn't, it's got a couple of pages that have, but it's still definitely usable, still has a lot of reads left in it. Some of the other books that we included, we've got Nuffle Bunny Free, and Where's Spot? I showed you Tap the Magic Tree. Again, the theme is imagination, but I very loosely stick to these themes. That's why I like broad themes, because you can include a lot of different books. Curious George and the Dinosaur, Not a Box. This is one of my favorite imagination books that I like to share in my baby story time. You Are Light. This is a great one because you can actually see through. There's no light behind me, but each of these little circles is a different piece of plastic, and it's a beautiful message, and it's actually just a really pretty story too. We've got an I Spy. 4 and 5-year-olds, they love I Spies, and they are being kind of regenerated, I find, in the library. We've just ordered a whole bunch of new ones. How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? The 3 Little Pigs. So books that are definitely popular and that are fun to read. I think it's important to share materials with caregivers that are enjoyable, that they're going to want to read for, a month. That's how long our boxes circulate. So having a good variety was something that I wanted to make sure that we had. And we also, oh yes, have a little easy reader. If there are any 5-year-olds that are, starting to do sight words, I try to include an easy reader in there too, just to help with that. Okay, let me put all of these back without knocking over my precarious cat tower. Okay, awesome. So that is the box, really useful box number 7. I think, yeah, I've run through this presentation probably 10 times and I feel like I've included everything, but like, if you think of anything, obviously I'll be in the chat afterwards, but I'm going to jump back into the presentation now. Hopefully I can do this effortlessly. Looks like it. All right. Let's move on. And so thinking about what's going to work for you. So now that you've seen what I've included in just one of these kits, I want to break down how this is, how you can build this, but I want to pause first. I want to give you a chance, literally just a minute, to jot down some ideas, what you saw, what you thought you could possibly implement. If something sparked another idea, I'm going to keep count for a minute for you just to kind of jot down some thoughts you have. Okay, pencils down. Just kidding. I find sometimes when I am watching a webinar or presentation, I get so wrapped up that I forget to write down what I'm thinking. So I always appreciate having a chance to be like, oh, yes, board books or flannel rhymes or something that then I probably can't even remember what I was relating it to afterwards, but hopefully everyone here is a little more organized than I am. Okay, so we are now going to jump back over to mentee. Let me see. So you're going to use the same code to vote, and this is going to be share your experience with the childcare center. Let me minimize that. Yeah, rate your experiences with childcare centers, and you can obviously elaborate in the poll. I'm sorry, not in the poll, in the chat. There we go. And if you've had any experiences, if you've maybe created something like this, or you're looking to revamp something, hopefully, I see a chat, let me see. Okay, yeah, Devin, yeah, put the code, so. Ooh, revamping. I would love to know, like, if you are looking to revamp, maybe just a little blurb might be the wrong word, but just kind of an idea of what you guys are doing. And that can be something in the breakout. But if you are looking to revamp, you might have ideas that I haven't thought of and that I might want to use. So I love learning from anyone and everyone. So I'm excited to hear. Yeah, excited to hear some ideas. Okay. So you guys we got pretty kind of even with close relationships and revamping outreach. It looks like one of you is wanting to develop. Okay, perfect. So we are gonna bump back. Oh, we got 5 and 6. Okay. No, I guess we won't tie. Let me, 6 and 6, you guys, it's too riveting. I don't even need to go back to the presentation. I'm just gonna watch 7. so easily amused. I really am like a giant cat. Okay, so we're gonna go back. I think, there we go, to this presentation. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so creating content. And looking for resources. So thinking about the community that you're aiming to serve, it looks like there are over half of you that are already working closely with daycare centers. So you have a really good idea of who you're serving right now. And thinking about, you know, how that your organization, be it a school or a library or a nonprofit, can help meet these centers and these providers where they are, and making their jobs easier. So with your organization and what you have accessible, what resources that you already have, whether it's a picture book collection that you weed. My library accepts donations of children's books, and sometimes they'll go into our little free library. Sometimes they'll go into our literacy kits. There is an amazing amount of donations that come in that are exceptional books. They're in great shape, and we might not be able to add them to our collection because various reasons, but they'll be perfect for either the little free library or for our kits. And there's always, you know, grants. I know we all love writing grants, don't we? Looking for outreach grants. There are a lot of companies that want to support foundational and early literacy. And so looking for possible grants for funding is a really great way to find a little bit of extra money. And thinking if your organization, if you have a supportive group, Friends of the Library is where we get a significant amount of funding for our programs and also for our literacy kits. So thinking about any sort of groups that might contribute to your organization that might be willing to help start something like this. And if you are choosing some weeded, discarded books, obviously, you know, make sure they are appropriate for the birth to 5 age. The earlier version of this system, this program, had a lot of the early Caldicots, and they're great, but keeping, you know, a 2-year-old's attention with some of the older ones. I know everyone is thinking there's like one that's in your mind. For me, it's always like Oxcart Man. It's just not a lot of bright pictures and, you know, great story. But sometimes when the books have a lot of words on the page, it can feel a little bit hard to share with very young kids. So keeping that in mind. And I already mentioned the antiquated rhymes. If you ever see a lassie, like to the tune of, just try to think of some more current, and you know, I'm not saying we have to, you know, match it with songs that we hear on the radio, but, you know, head, shoulders, knees and toes, or hokey pokey, or just things that I think a lot of people just know off the bat that aren't 150, 200-year-old songs. Although I do love Do Your Ears Hang Low. I do use that one a lot. And so many people look at me like, what is that song about? I'm like, I don't know, but I love it. So I also, and I kind of shared this with the folder and some of the language I use as a children's librarian, and I work with a lot of people that have their master's in early childhood education, some have PhDs. Like, we are creating these kits for people that might not have the same level of education. A lot of daycare providers, maybe they have been doing it for 50 years, and maybe they are a 20-something-year-old that went and, you know, now has the certification to work in a childcare center. And so I want to make sure the language I use is very easy. And, you know, I'm not talking about the cognitive processing skills of, you know, developmental literacy. Like, just keep it simple. Like, it, you know, doesn't have to be this lofty, these lofty words. So baby brain development and simple things that that they can do. And I like to keep the language simple, because a lot of times I've received feedback that they don't even read the kind of the instructions that I put with the kit. So I've just started including them in the envelopes because they just open it, they grab something and they go. So just keeping that in mind, keeping our language so that we're making their jobs easier and not creating more work for them. All right, so kit themes. Inside that Google Drive folder is just a list of the themes that I've created. Inspirations everywhere. You know, general themes do make it so much easier. If you look around you, literally where you're sitting right now, I'm sure you see letters, colors, numbers, animals, shapes, you know, things that go. Anything you can turn into a theme. Does not have to be. They were very specific. We had a down on the farm and colorful birds that fly. And I just was like, this is an animal, you know, that's it. We're keeping it simple. And so if you need more structure, just think about the required resources you're going to need in those confines. So keep that in mind. And I know I've said this 3 times, but remember they're for children 5 years and younger. Don't include, you know, counting by tens. I had to weed those from some of our boxes. Some really, you know, difficult kind of math tasks. There was a multiplication worksheet in one of them for numbers, and I didn't get it, but it's okay. And remember that if this is not your wheelhouse, if you don't work with babies, with toddlers and daycare providers, ask people that do. That's one of the great things about, you know, a community, and especially with resources that, you know, Devon creates and that NC Live creates, and they have all of these amazing places you can go and find information. My cats they're gonna break out. So just don't be afraid to go ask, where do I, you know, what do I do? Hopefully I can give you a good place to start. And then it's an easy enough option to just go ask people that are in the field. Okay. Oh my gosh, now there's a dog going crazy outside. It is happening here in Southern Pines. Let's see. Making the activities. So my favorite place to start is Pinterest. If I know that I want to do my box theme on colors, I will go into Pinterest and search, you know, color toddler activity, and things will come up. And from there, I can look in my craft closet and see like, oh, I can make some lacing cards because I have some, you know, lacing threads that I bought for a craft a million years ago that I didn't use all of. And that's obviously how the little hidden treasure jars were formed, is I was inspired by what I saw on Pinterest. And I was like, oh, I can make this. And then I recreate the things in Canva. So, you know, it's important not to just like steal people's stuff. And so there's a million templates in Canva. I cannot say enough wonderful stuff about that website and the app. And the free version gives you so much creative ability. So this was just a template and I just threw it together. So it doesn't, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Once you use Canva, your life will forever be changed for the better, in my opinion. So make it your own from what you see on Pinterest. And then I feel like as a public librarian, and with a lot of librarians, we have those programming manuals. I still have mine from grad school. And then in my office, there are some. I brought one with me for this, the phonemic awareness. And this is from 1995, and there are some amazing tips in here that I, you know, talking about rhyming and things that, you know, I've just kind of snatched out of here and made things in Canva that also go inside the boxes. So don't be afraid to look back at resources that you might, you know, have forgotten about, because I definitely did. Okay. And if you aren't in a library, you can always go to your library and see what resources they have. We have a professional development shelf. And if you don't work, if you're not an employee of the library, you can always, use those as reference materials and just kind of flip through and get an idea as well. Okie dokie. So if, all of this seems kind of big scale, you can adapt. You can adapt this to meet your needs for your organization and who you want to serve. I do think thinking big is really important because you can always grow the things. And it is something, if you do have the funding to buy 10 of these great boxes, they're wonderful. They stack, they're easy to clean. They really are tough, but they're pricey. So if that's not something that is available to you right now, a canvas bag is great. Starting small is great, and you can grow it. So thinking about laying a really solid foundation, and I have the spreadsheets that I can just add the different books in, and the folders, and everything has the same foundation, and I just swap out the components, which is kind of the next little bit. If you don't have the funding for books, you don't have anything that you're weeding, have more rhymes and more activities. It costs you paper to print it out. And those are really some of the big foundations, the singing and the rhyming and the talking. The free things are a wonderful resource to have as a provider. So don't think if you're just handing them a folder full of songs and rhymes and, dances and even fun, like letter tracing worksheets, for the little ones with their crayon to practice their pre-writing skills. That's a great gift to share with these centers. And it's definitely something that's duplicable that you can do, in a larger number, whether it's starting with 2 boxes or 2 folders or 2 canvas bags. You can just keep creating more. And then talking to your childcare providers and asking what would help them. It's, half of you have a great relationship and half of you want a better relationship. So this is a great way to build a better relationship by saying, we want to help more, better. How can we serve you? What can we give you? What do you need? Unfortunately, we're not able to go into the centers right now. We typically provided a story time when we would bring the boxes, and that isn't possible. So, you can still provide the valuable resources, especially if they're going to tell you what they need. That's even better. And so looking at kit delivery, we do deliver the boxes to the centers. We are a tiny little town, so it's pretty easy to get around to each of the centers. And we find it kind of keeps our centers on top of getting us, having the box ready. So I'll drop one off and pick up the last month. But there are times when they're not ready and they'll have to bring the box back, when they're able to. So you can kind of choose how strict you want to be. And then deciding how long you want the centers to be able to keep the boxes. The more centers you have, the more boxes you have, or if you have less, they'll keep it less time. But then thinking about you running around, or if you've got, a courier or a bookmobile or someone that does that, it might be more or less feasible depending on the options that your organization has. And having a little printed evaluation sheet inside the box is really simple, like a half sheet that says, did you like this? Did you like this box? Did you use everything? What didn't you use? What would you like to see? Again, letting them know that you are a partner and you're not just handing them this, as like, use this, do better, do this. It's like, no, we want to help you. We want to provide you with a service because you do so much for the community, and we can provide resources as well. So having that feedback is a really great way to make sure you're doing the best you can and providing the best for them as well. So, and like I said, we would do story times, but using a simple spreadsheet to track the boxes, what's where, what themes have gone to which centers. Obviously, they're going to overlap at some point, but it's nice to make sure, that one center doesn't get the same box, every other month. All right. Now it was done. That's it, the end. I would love to hear any thoughts or any questions. Again, any ideas that you guys have that you've tried, ideas that didn't work. I think I learn better from when things don't work for me than when they do. I will be in the breakout session afterwards, but if anyone has any thoughts or things, and if you aren't able, if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to email me. My email is moderndaymothergoose@gmail.com. You can connect through social media. I love following other librarians and seeing their books and their animals. I feel like that's, or plants also, if you don't have animals. So feel free to reach out or connect if you think of something after this is no longer live. And I'll look forward to chatting with you guys in the breakout session. I don't, oh yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Folks,
You're
feel
welcome.
free to submit questions in the chat. I've also included a link to our follow-up survey if you'd like to give feedback. But thank you all for joining us this Thursday. We really appreciate all the attendees who have been a part of our literacy series with the State Library this month. And keep an eye out. We'll be sharing some of the recordings of sessions that were hosted this month on our YouTube channel as well. So if you didn't get to register for certain things, keep an eye out. That's basically our database of all of our webinar recordings and other good stuff.
And just commenting, Beth, our social emotional feelings is one of our most popular kits. And actually in the Google folder, I made a feelings wheel that you just need a little brad to connect the arrow. And it's great for talking about feelings. I keep a feelings wheel on my front door. As a grown woman, I still have to work through feelings and emotions. So I love anything that we can do for the ones that talk about social emotional learning. And Devin, for the breakout, does it just go live into that, or silly asking?
Yes. So basically, what I'll do is randomly split us up into 3 breakout rooms. Folks, if you need to head out, that is totally fine. And feel free to reach out to Kristen later on. I'll include her email as well in the follow-up email that I'll be sending out later today. And basically, I will stay kind of in the main room once the breakout rooms are open to make sure that everybody gets set up properly. But I will stop the recording now because at this point, we've finished that.